Thank you. Thank you, Kaveh. What an intro. Beloved. I like it. I hope they put that on my gravestone. Okay, so
That's not why I
my
said it, by the way.
my name is Elizabeth Halpin. I am Vice Dean of Continuing Education and Professional Studies at Seton Hall University, and I am also an undergraduate director in our um, Buccino Leadership Development Institute on campus. So I teach leadership development to undergraduates, and I do a lot of coaching with my students. And last year, I took a coaching certification class with Kaveh and Christina as instructors, and with AJO Associates, and I thought the programming was so fantastic. And Brian, I'm going to reach my 100 hours
Oh,
in
good.
January and looking to get certified soon, so I'm excited about that. Um, and I wanted to bring this kind of programming to Seton Hall. So Seton Hall has partnered with AJO Associates to bring coaching education programming to the Seton Hall community and our partners and our external community, greater community here. And so we've started this webinar series to sort of test the waters and see who in our sphere is interested in coaching education, and what kind of education programs could we provide that would be of service to our community. So that's why we're here today, and we thank you very much for joining us. We are very much looking forward to providing this content to you and to getting to know all of you and your needs as coaches, as HR professionals, in whatever capacity you are coaching people, and looking forward to providing service to you as partnered with AJO. So, Kaveh, I'll let you take it away. Thank you so much for being here, and let's have a great session.
Thank you. Thank you. So, by the way, when Elizabeth talks about certification and Brian, there are two different things going on. So, you will be academically certified by ICF as a coach. You can hang your sign up saying, I'm a coach, fully certified after this program. And there's an industry designation, just like you have in other fields, like project management, whatever, provided through the ICF that has like the karate would be like the green belt, black belt type of designations, depending on your hours and all of that, that they provide. So they're going for one of those karate belts, the ones that spoke. So that's the distinction. The other frame I will put is that everything we're going to talk about here has a double loop. We're talking about the coachee, the client, and we're talking about the coach in their journey of learning. So when we talk about, for example, the mindset of coaching, we're talking on both sides. That's how we conduct the class. When we talk about giving and receiving feedback, we're also talking about how a coach would receive feedback and how they're in continuous learning. So that's important to remember. So with that,
Kaveh, can I just make a clarification? So when Kaveh mentions the coaching program where you will be able to hang your shingle as a coach, there's a larger program that AJO provides that I have gone through and Brian has gone through, and then that program is the program that he's referring to. So if that's something that's of interest to you, when we're finished, we can talk more about that program. But I
yeah,
just wanted to make the clarification that not
yeah,
after this webinar is
you're not
not
going to
the
get that after
time.
the webinar. Very good. Thank you. Yeah, yes, thank you very much for that. So, first of all, I wanted to quick congratulations to my partner in arms, Christina, the new grandma, very youthful grandma. So, so thank you for that. Uh, um, so, the material that we're going to present today is as if you were in the classroom. We're going to make it as realistic as possible so you can experience what it would actually be like if we were together going through the coach certification program. When we talk about feedback, often it's not about the word feedback, it's about the relationship one has with the word and the experiences that you've had when encountering that word. So, for example, if you're in a cooking class or a photography class as a hobby, and the instructor says, "Hey, Juan, would you like a little feedback about the way you're making that souffle?" You might have a very different reaction than when in your work setting, your boss says, "Hey, would you like some feedback?" So, what are you getting curious about? What you're getting curious about is your relationship and a previous experiences, the way your neurology has been formed around that word in the work setting. It often gets mixed up with consequence management, with promotions, with titles, with salaries. That is not at all what we're talking about in the coaching space. In the coaching space, our focus 100% is on development and growth, the growth mindset. And Christina is going to share some slides with you around some work of Carol Dweck and others around the growth mindset. That is the type of relationship we want to establish in your mind when we're using this word. Um, so what are some of the places for feedback in coaching? Well, obviously, when you start your coaching, you're collecting information about your coachee, and you have to then share that with them. And there's a way of discussing that with your coachee, your client, that becomes more productive and opens up the channels of learning versus closing them down. And we're going to go through that. I normally do it three different times in my coaching. Once at the beginning, once towards the middle with their supervisor in hand, so that we can actually have time to modify, make adjustments, and once at the end around where are we? What do you think are some of the next steps? How would you keep the continuous learning going after I disappear with your boss and so forth? So those are probably really three very good places to think about giving and receiving feedback. Um, the goal, there are three different types of stages of feedback reception. The first one is I'm giving feedback, you're getting defensive, you're rationalizing, you're not taking it on, which is obviously not very helpful. The second one is actually pretty good. You take it on and you try to do something about it, which is good. What we want to develop in our coachees is a third level, that growth mindset one, where you actually become a feedback seeker. So Christina says, okay, you said it's 90% good. That's great. What's the 10%? I want to know the 10%. So then we start thinking about what kind of a mindset, and what kind of persona, what kind of a spirit you must embody in you as a coach and as a coachee to be able to be like Ed Kocha. Some of you that probably predate some of you might have to look it up on Wikipedia, but he used to be the mayor of New York. And he used to walk around all the time asking people, "How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing?" So that's sort of the frame that we want to establish. Christina is going to share with you the adult learning model of Kolb's adult learning model, which is the underpinning of this program. And you're going to see in there the place for feedback. Because when we come to coaching from learning, not from you're gonna be talking to other schools of thought, other people that use the word coaching. It's very important that you discover what is the underpinning, what's the conceptual frame behind their methodology. Ours is the adult learning model, highly experiential, learning by doing, being supported, but also obviously continuous dialogue around where am I, how am I doing, and so forth. Um, so there are different ways that you can actually set up with your client from the very start when you have your relationship setting meeting around how you would be using coaching feedback. So, for example, one of the ways is the coach says, I'm going to be sharing with you when I notice something. So I'm noticing, Elizabeth, this. How does that resonate with you? Or what I like to do actually is to start with, so Elizabeth, what are you noticing about yourself and where you are in this? And this way I can also test her level of awareness. And then I can always complete it and said, yes, and also I have noticed this as well. So this is a very important part of our process. So from a motivational point of view, let's think about it that way. If you are climbing a very high mountain, let's say, and you are continuously looking at the summit, there's your motivation is sort of calibrated to how whether you're at the top of the summit or not. However, if you also look down sometimes as to where you currently are from where you started, that might create a different level of motivation. So another place for coaching and for feedback is also to constantly remind us, the two of us, the client and the coach, as to how far you've traveled. Now, the human tendency is just because of our neurology, just because of our conditioning, which is always looking for perfection, is if I give you 16 great things and one thing you have to work on, guess what you're going to obsess about, especially in the work setting, right? And so another place for this is to balance things out, smooth things out, and create some motivation around, wow, these things that I'm taking for granted, they weren't there yesterday. I am really going to give myself some credit for actually being where I am from where I started. If you try to lose weight, for example, right, that's very, very important. Okay, so before I hand it off to Christina, let's talk about why this is so important for the coaching mindset. If you don't position this properly with your client, it will affect their mindset around how to get and process feedback. So, for example, one of the things I do right away with my clients is say, listen, I'm not here to judge whether the feedback is correct, incorrect, fair, or unfair. I am here to share with you perceptions which, if left unattended, will become reality. And a perception that's reality is as good as truth in organizations. Then I ask the next very important question, which they ask in marriage counseling. Unfortunately, I know that one, which is, are you ready to do the work? Do you want to do the work of rebranding these perceptions? Why? Because the people that you gave me to interview are critical to your success. Are they not? Yes, it's my boss. It's my okay. So there's some perceptions and they are becoming reality. Would you like to work on them? If you get into what's right, wrong, fair, or unfair, they're always going to have a lot more information than you. You're not there, and you're going to set yourself up. However, if you take this feedback as perceptions that are out there around you, and do you want to do the work, then that's a whole different platform mindset that you're stepping into. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Christina. If there's questions about what I said, we can come back and address all of that. once we get to that section. Christina, take it away.
Thank you, Kaveh. Thank you. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I want to take a brief moment and touch on what Kaveh talked about a few moments ago about experiential learning. And the way that our program has been constructed, it really leans very heavily into this idea of the adult learning model, Kolb's adult learning model, starting first with this, and we all face it, whether those of you sitting on this call right now, taking all this information in, it particularly plays an important role also in the coaching relationship. When you've been able to work with a client and they've gotten to the point of being able to conceptualize what is it that is keeping them stuck, what behaviors, what perceptions, what ways of acting and reacting are keeping them stuck. And then to be able to take that insight that comes through the relationship and play around with it, actively experiment with, well, what if I did start to look at things differently? Or what if I did react in a different way to a peer of mine who is always driving me crazy in every group meeting that we've ever had? And to help that person get into that reflective and observational mindset. You as a coach are doing the same thing. You're seeing what is coming to you from your client, and then playing around with that information and seeing, is this now in service of the client, being able to advance in the goals that we set out for this engagement. And ultimately, if what comes back in this learning model is what we are playing around with, experimenting with in real life, in real time, is working, then we find ways to be able to integrate that into our regular, behavior on behalf of the client. You as a coach being able to grow and learn, because as a coach, there's always growth and learning in your skill set. Excuse me. The note about feedback that Kaveh referenced, excuse me. I have an AC blower going on over my head. It's a little dry. This idea of feedback, or as the model is showing, regular dialogue, think of it as the oil in the engine. It's what's keeping things humming along and moving in a very smooth and integrated fashion throughout the entire learning model, and then providing that feedback so that you stay true to what it is that you have learned. So let's take a moment and start talking about mindsets. Thank you, Jill. Carol Dweck. She is a professor, researcher, psychologist at Stanford University, highly educated woman. Her own experience has been quite interesting, that led her in, I think it was the late 1980s, to start to do some work on discovering mindset and motivation. And what she found, as she's an extremely intelligent woman, is that the way that in her academic world she felt assessed and judged was based on her IQ and based on the things that she did right. And when she did something wrong and she was, sort of put into an uncomfortable position doing some research, that she was kind of unable to handle that feedback and criticism that came back to her. Instead of seeing it as, okay, this is information that I can learn and improve on, she saw it, as many of us do, as sort of an attack on her skills and abilities. If I am so well studied and so well credentialed and so smart, why didn't I get this? And she decided to be curious about her reaction. And that led to this incredible multi-decade level of research on what is mindset. So when she talks about mindset from a psychological perspective, it is a way of thinking, your attitude or your set of opinions about something. And we're going to see in a second on the next slide how mindset can either be a friend or a foe. Dweck identified this concept of a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So just think about this in any aspect of your life, or with your family members, or people that you know professionally or personally. Think about the people who, when an obstacle or a challenge comes their way, does it feel as if it is something that they want to avoid, that it somehow is a challenge to them and their personhood? Do they shy away from it because it is difficult, or it somehow can bring up very negative kinds of feelings? It's personalized. And that fixed mindset is very much one of, there's only so much. So you hear, the metaphor of the proverbial pie, right? How do we slice up the pie? Someone with a fixed mindset says, well, the pie is only 10 inches round. We can only get so many slices out of it. And then that's it. Once we've exhausted it, that's pretty much it. Someone with a growth mindset would look at that pie and say, well, why can't we have a 12-inch pie? Why can't we grow it? Why can't we feed more people? What Dweck found was, when you have a fixed mindset, because of the behaviors that come out of that when you're confronted with a challenge, is that you could plateau early. You're riding on your innate skill set. You're riding on what's kind of easy for you because you haven't really been challenged, or you haven't jumped into the challenge. And so someone like that may wind up achieving less in life and not really living up to their full potential, because their view of the world is deterministic and fixed and narrow. Growth mindset, though, and it's interesting because you don't need a certain IQ level or a certain set of capabilities inherent within you to either have a fixed or a growth mindset. It's not dependent on that. You could have a growth mindset no matter what it is that you bring to the table, because the growth mindset is really about your attitude, your level of innate curiosity that you want to stoke and to grow and to lean into. You embrace the challenge. You understand that effort, even though it may not feel good at the time, is a path to getting better. You want to learn. When someone is giving you criticism, you can step back and be objective and say, all right, what is it that I can gain out of this? People with growth mindsets tend to have higher levels of achievement, not just at certain points in their life, but throughout. And it also aligns with the sense that you really can act, that the choices lay within you as to how you want to react to something and grow from it.
Christina, this is a great point to bring the other concept in. So we talked about
Hmm.
feedback seeking versus accepting feedback. Okay, so this is where you actively actually are seeking feedback. So it's
Yeah.
what I call the joy of learning versus the agony of performance, right? You actually are bringing it in, wanting, begging people to give you feedback. So just so as we're talking, think about where you are on the spectrum, get curious. What's in the way of it? Because we're going to do that a little bit later,
Hmm.
and play with that as we're going through this.
Exactly. Jill, can we go forward? Thanks. So if you're thinking about shifting your mindset, if you're starting to think, maybe I'm playing a little bit too much on the left side of that last slide, I am a bit too fixed and fatalistic in my mindset, the first thing to do is to just observe. And as a coach, this is an incredible skill to have, the ability to be present and to observe. What is that voice that you are hearing? When does it show up? How does it show up? How can you identify it more readily? And then realizing, well, gee, I have a choice. Do I want to maintain this fixed point of view that I have had? Or do I want to lean into being curious, into trying to gather more feedback, into growing? You could talk back to that voice that you feel within you with that growth mindset. Why is it there? What is it trying to do for me? And is it really still serving me? And then using that choice that you have now made, decide to now lean into that growth mindset. It can become a habit and a practice for you and for the clients that you're serving to help them shift from one to the other.
By the way, if you find a little private place where when you talk loud, they don't think you're crazy, actually a very, very good way to get on top of the different parts of you, right? So when the fixed one comes in, for example, you can have a real conversation. There you come again. I know exactly, you become like a best friend. It's like, okay, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say this and that. And the more you do that, the more you're witnessing yourself from a higher place. And therefore you can, really kind of take the wind out of its sail and get on top of it. What we call in the field as self-mastery.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go forward. So, what does it mean to have a coaching mindset? So, mindset is agnostic, right? Mindset applies to clients, mindset applies to coaches, mindset applies to everything, every endeavor in life. But when we talk specifically about a coaching mindset, what does that look like? So I mentioned curiosity before. Kaveh did as well. So as a coach, are you curious? Do you want to evolve your skills over time? I can tell you, I've been coaching for a while now, and I find that I am always learning. There is always a way for me to be able to improve as a coach. And quite candidly, it's been a really fantastic journey because the things that I learn are things that are absolutely applicable to almost every area of my life. So I've become, a better partner, a better parent, a better friend, because I'm really curious about how can I be a better coach?
Yeah. You see,
Um,
think about what you just said because this is critical. So why
yeah.
why is it that you have that humility in coaching for two reasons. Number one is that it's not at all about you at all. It's about the other one, the other person that you're serving. Secondly, there's only one Brian in the entire world
Mhm.
that's wired uniquely like Brian. He's the one that's going to teach you. There's no way that you can take something from your coaching of, Jill and apply it to Brian. Even though it might be the same topic, they're wired completely differently. So it's that curiosity of mindset that you have to have with every single one.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, the first point that you made, Kaveh, I have found that the greatest satisfaction that I've gained from coaching is when the person that I'm working with has achieved something of importance to themselves, that they have gained an insight and they've been able to apply that in their work or in their personal life. That to me, that's the reward more than anything else. So if, for the people on the call, if you decide to start to go down this path, there's a level of reward that comes from it that's very unique and very enriching. Other aspects of a coaching mindset, awareness of self. Kaveh just mentioned self mastery, and your intuition to benefit your clients. Oftentimes, when we think of coaching, we think of being very directive. I know X, Y, or Z, like the sports coach, and I'm going to teach it to you, or I'm going to push you, or something like that. And that is me taking my experience and trying to say, well, if you follow this experience, then you'll be great. That's not what we mean when we talk about coaching. We talk about being very present and connected to our client, but we are guiding them because ultimately they are responsible for their own choices. They are ultimately responsible for what it is that they gain out of the coaching engagement. That requires us as a coach to not only be curious, to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of what the client is feeding back to us, whether through their words or their expressions, their body language. Sometimes that can tell you a great deal, that something is there for you to further explore as a coach and your curiosity. But we also have to be able to regulate our emotions because we need to be able to maintain a high level of presence for them. So that ability to be deeply in the moment, that's a critical aspect of the coaching mindset. And when we don't know, we don't know. I have turned to Kaveh, and said, gee, I'm trying to do this on behalf of a client or a potential client. but I'm not quite there. And seeking out the advice from other trusted coaches and other sources is important as well, because you don't know everything, and being fine with that is really allows you to be a better coach. So not coaching, as I alluded to before, is coming in with the 5 or 6 set answers. If you follow this program, then you're going to be okay. That's not what coaching is, because in truth, you don't know exactly what that right answer is for that client. You are there to help that client uncover the right answer based on all the information you have, the feedback that they've received. But it's important that you not go in thinking, I'm going to solve this particular issue for someone else. Not coaching is when you quickly draw conclusions or judgments about the situation. It's important to keep exploring, so that you understand more, and most importantly, that the coachee understands more. Or if you allow your feelings, your emotions, sometimes you have to check yourself, because something may come up with your coachee that could be reminiscent of something that you had gone through. And you will find that you are slipping out of that coaching mindset. So that ability to regulate yourself, regardless of what is coming toward you from the coaching, is also really important. So
Well,
Jill, let's,
yeah, wonderful setup.
yeah. And now we can move to giving and receiving
Yeah,
feedback.
one point, very importantly, the way we set it up is think more like an acting studio than a classroom. So you're going to be getting, what we try to do is work a lot on your presence so that you be perceived as someone who will be invited into those conversations that a client will have only with themselves. What kind of a presence would it take for a coach to be allowed to be in that space of conversations the client is having only with themselves?
Yeah.
Uh, and it's by doing and receiving feedback from others in the classroom when we get to a certain level of trust where you're actually putting out the source
Mhm.
essence to get the type of feedback around your presence as a coach as to whether I'm ready to give the baton to Brian and say, okay, I'm going to now tell you the real stuff that's going on with me. Okay, so when I put up this slide here, these are just statistics, but what are you getting curious about here? When you see the anxiety around giving feedback, or people think that is fair or unfair. What kinds of emotion do you think are being aroused for us to get this sort of data? Anybody raise their hand? Want to take some guesses? You'll be sort of giving a preview of what I'm going to be saying in a minute. What does this bring up for you when you see these kind of statistics?
Javi,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you guys can just call out the answer. So Juan, you go right ahead.
Yeah. So, Javi, and having had the privilege to be in this space under your leadership, and being in the corporate world for many years, I feel that one of the areas that is triggering this is sometimes fear.
Yes.
So when you hear the voice of your manager or somebody, can I give you some feedback? No matter the tone of the conversation or the presence of that person, the first thought in your chatterbox is, oh, something is not good. So I think fear is the first word that traditionally have seen popping up in the minds of those.
Very good. That's a big one. Absolutely. It's because of the association they make with the word.
Absolutely.
What happens? Yes. Others, you want to take a venture at why this is creates so much anxiety and or what types of emotions this brings out in others when you talk about the word feedback?
Yes, hi, my name's Sandy. Human resources for close to 40 years. I think that I think this is a very realistic slide. And I do think that feedback's not given often enough and it's not balanced enough. So what happens is people begin to fear it.
Yes.
And instead of saying it's a conversation and it's for the positive. So what happens is that once a year or twice a year performance review or becomes such it gets so blown up that people hate it. So I think this is very accurate. I could almost say that I think 51% might be a little low, but I think
It's outdated.
it might be 80%, but no, I think this is extremely accurate in my
Yeah.
experience. Thank
So
you.
thank you. That's absolutely right. Think about in your organizations, the proportion of how much you're fanning the energy of the joy of learning versus the fear of performance. That will start to give you some clues. Okay, so with that as a background, let's go to the next slide, Jill. All right. So these are sort of the things that one needs to be mindful of when we get into this arena. How are you framing the feedback? So when we have this is what we teach in class. When you have your relationship setting meeting initially with your clients, you have to normalize this as part of the process, and that is really the focus is not going to be what they're used to. That it's going to be completely developmental. It's going to be completely about learning. It's going to be completely about. I'm going to get to this word later in my own journey on something I'm going to share, surrendering. In other words, in order for you to learn and grow, you have to surrender, and with the idea that there are things that I'm not doing or should be doing or can practice that are going to take me to that next level. If you don't do that, the coaching is not going to go to where it's going to go. So the framing is very important. You recognize the barriers to receiving feedback. That's just normal. What comes to mind is fear, anxiety, preconditioning, what I'm used to when I hear this word, all of that. You have to come face to face, acknowledge it, converse with it, and really get a very good feel for it so that you can get on top of it. Delivering feedback. What does it take for me as a coach to deliver feedback? Balance, accuracy, courage, and servant leadership on the part of anybody that wants to give or receive feedback. Is what am I serving? What's the higher than me goal here? What is the one that's serving the organization, the family, whatever? Is that what I'm operating on, or is it more from the point of view of my own self? And then practice. This is neurology. This is neural pathways. This is how your synapses connect. If you practice, for example, regularly feedback seeking, and my guess is if you're like the rest of the population, there's going to be less than 5% of you that are actually feedback seekers. That's a new neurology. That requires different connectivity in your brain, and that gets deepened with practice. So on to the next slide, Jill. So there are basically these three types of feedback, and it's very important that you be very apparent and transparent with which kind of feedback are you giving. Are you giving appreciative feedback, authentic thank yous that are actually based on facts? Are you coaching, which is what we spend a lot of time on in class, which is sharpening skills, capabilities, and so forth? Or are you evaluating, which is what a lot of people are used to in organizations, which are some very specific external expectations that you have to meet and measured against? Unfortunately, all of those are lumped under one heading called feedback. Okay.
And it's, you know, if I could jump in real fast, Kaveh, they all have their place and they all are valuable.
Absolutely.
But just be clear, what is it that you're intending when you use each one of them,
Yeah.
right? It's important to not blur them in your own mind because that'll impact your delivery.
When it comes to coaching, if they start seeing you as an evaluator, that's going to make you lose your space as a coach. You cannot take sides. You cannot be the voice of the organization. You cannot have a stake in business thinking. You can't be a consultant. Because the minute you do that, they're going to associate you with a point of view. And even when you go to interview people about that person, they're going to say, oh, that's that one that's actually lined up on that position. Okay. This is routinely mishandled because there are some that use coaching to get more consulting business, and there's a whole book on that. Okay, so let's go to some of the triggers. Okay, so what gets in the way of this are three different types of triggers. One is the truth trigger, that this sort of presses the button of fairness, justice, is this fair type of thing. The second one is relationship triggers. I just can't hear this from you. You want a good example of this? Take a look at Washington, D.C. right now. By definition, if those other guys said it, it's wrong, no matter what it is. And so that definitely comes up in the coaching and in the feedback. Is like, well, you know, I know who said that, and don't listen to anything they say, you know, because they hate me, or I don't have any respect for them, and all that. And again, we're working with perceptions that are really important to your success. And then this is the identity trigger, which has to do with, I get this a lot when people, circumstances change. For example, they're stepping into semi-retirement, or they got a job overseas, or they change cultures and they go from a big pharma to a biotech or whatever. And suddenly it's like, who am I? Is what I'm doing valuable? What's my sense of self-worth? Where's my identity come from? All of these can block their hearing and their radar in terms of taking in a learning way, in a productive way, what you're trying to tell them. Okay, so I'm going to share on this next slide, delivering effective feedback. I'm going to use my own journey. I'm crazy enough to have decided that at my age where I'm in life, I'm going to become a better tennis player than when I was young and I was actually playing competitively. Don't laugh too hard. I'm in the middle of it. And I've explained this to the pro that I'm working with. He's in his 20s, played Division I tennis, unbelievable player. And we have a plan. My goal is to win the 40 and over tournament locally. So let's go to the first one, keeping it real. My coach has told me that you're great, good game, a lot of effort. However, you learned on clay courts with outdated technology way back when, and the game has moved on. And you're not leveraging and maximizing the power of your racket and the speed of the play, and your strategies are too defensive for the modern game. He kept it real, he kept it kind, but he was real. I appreciated that. I invited him to do that. Then the other one is specific, focusing on what I can control and avoid praising effort only. He told me that my swing is too long for the modern game. I have to shorten it. And he said that if you want your serve to be 20 to 30 miles an hour faster, here's how you have to explode into the ball using every physics that you know around how your body compresses and decompresses. And then on the feedback, he said again, you're in good health, strong, make a lot of effort. However, let's break this down in morsels so that it doesn't become overwhelming for you. This week, we're only going to work on footwork. That's all we're going to do. We're going to work on footwork. There's a book by the Heath brothers called, written a lot on we use in class, on change. It's called Switch. And one of the principles is if you make the bar too high, people are going to give up. They're not going to think that again. So he's broken it down in morsels that I can deal with. And he said, listen, nothing personal, but at your age, at the pace that we're going to play, you're going to be exhausted. I recommend you take 90-minute to 120-minute lessons so we take more frequent breaks and we can chat during the break. And by the way, he said, talking about his own doubts and what he's the second column, he said that my way is I got to stop the play and call it in real time. We're going to do over. And I'm going to be very direct in my feedback. That has cost me some students. Are you okay with that? So as a package, this is the kind of feedback that I was looking for. That is going to actually get me to somewhere. Anytime your coaching becomes a chat session in Starbucks, sisterhood, brotherhood, and all of that, that is not coaching. You actually lost your place. Okay. So let's break you up in groups. Just think for a minute before you start individually where you have been challenged by either giving or receiving feedback. Write down what that feedback was, how you offered it or received it, and the challenges or barriers regarding that feedback. So this is individual. Then in the breakout group, choose one person to discuss and scribe what they said about what kind of feedback was given the triggers that I gave you earlier, which triggers were activated in you, what did you learn, and how would you do it differently going forward? So again, if you don't remember the triggers, they were the truth trigger, the relationship trigger, and the identity triggers. See which one got in your way, how would you do it differently? And then let's reconvene. One program note, we asked you earlier why you joined the call. We're going to go back to that at the end of the session and probe you for why you joined and whether you got sort of what you were after. If you didn't, we can individually work with you to provide you what you may not have gotten in the call.
Okay. And I'm going to put you guys into the breakout rooms for 20 minutes. So you have a few minutes to work on the first part, like Kaveh said. And then you have the 15 minutes to work together as a group. There is a Rosero alumni. Some of you are lucky enough to have two in every group. So if you have any questions or you're not sure how the process goes and you're not remembering the triggers, your alumni will probably be a little bit more familiar. And I threw them in the chat too, if you want to pull that up so you can see it.
Jill, one thing, given the timing, maybe we should bring everyone back by around 1:15.
That's fine. Yeah, they're going to be gone for 20 minutes.
Okay.
So they'll be back before then.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions before we go into the breakout rooms? Okay. I'm going to open them all up. We'll see you guys in about 20 minutes. Have fun. Welcome back, Juan.
Hello, Jill.
Was there enough time in the breakout room?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. We didn't get into specifics about this. We got more general, but we can share what we discussed for the benefit of the audience.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we lose some people? Because our group, we were a cozy little group, just Janine and I.
We did. We lost, I think, 4 people.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably 2 in our team. 1 at least. I know we have Natalie here and Nina. So
Everybody should be back now.
I think we're waiting for Kaveh, but do we want to start a debrief?
Yeah, Kaveh should be back.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute for some reason.
Oh, that's okay. That's
What
okay.
happened?
Yeah,
it
because all
was
the
on
rooms are
purpose.
closed.
It was on purpose.
Somebody didn't like what I was saying, I think.
Yeah.
Oops, did I do that? No, I'm kidding.
So one thing, just
Your
protect-
camera is off too, Kaveh. I don't know if you know that.
Sorry,
Your camera.
camera's off. Oh,
Mhm.
that might be a blessing, but let me see. Where's the camera? Camera.
Should be in the bottom left corner.
I have my name.
So you have to touch the screen or.
Oh, I see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you see it? Lower
Is it
left.
on?
There we go. Hey.
Finally. So one thing just came up in our group, but it's very important to know about the program, is that we don't make a distinction between the professional self and the whole self. By that, I mean that the two are related. So, like someone said, well, this is from my personal side, not my professional side. Is it okay to talk about it? We believe that your professional side is absolutely affected by what's happening in your personal side, right? So, for example, if somebody's going through divorce and they're showing up at work, you can't just discount the fact that that's what's happening in their life, and that's part of the context in your listening and so forth. Okay, so let's just open it up for people. Who wants to volunteer what happened in their group?
So we can go.
Okay.
So we were in our team with Brian, with Natalie, and with Nina.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't get specifically in one of the triggers, and we discussed for the benefit of Natalie and Nina that we're interested in how is the program into this area of feedback. And some of the areas that we discussed about feedback, particularly were the way that we approach the other person, in this case, the client, in terms of the word feedback. That sometimes if we go and approach this as a dialogue in which the purpose definitely is a feedback.
Within the SNAP program, there is a way for certain states to apply for programs that allow those SNAP dollars.
Jill, can you mute that? There.
Sorry, Juan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
No worries.
Things
That's
happen.
fine. That's fine. We will provide feedback later. So then the way that we use this and the power of this dialogue with the person to make the other person feel comfortable, right, and to make the person like surrender in the way that we can open the channels and then be present for this moment of the conversation. That's one of the aspects that we discussed. And the second one was that it might be that feedback normally is provided, at least in the corporate world that we discuss as well, once a year or twice a year.
Right.
And the fact that we can accelerate the process of improvement by having more frequent opportunities to feedback as you said, Kaveh, we normalize the process and we normalize the
Right.
feedback process in a way that people are not going to take it as a surprise. It's something that is normal. It's part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's part
Absolutely.
of the process.
Yeah.
That's basically what we discussed during our conversation.
That's a really good point. I'll just give you a quick experience. There was an organization, very big pharma, where they wanted feedback, the way we talk about it, to be built into their performance management process. Why? Because nowadays, when you first start, when you're coming up with your goals, they want it to be much more proactive, not just top down,
Mhm.
which means you need coaching skills. Then during the year is exactly what you said. You don't want it to be just, November or December. You want ongoing conversations that where the supervisor actually is more of a coach than it is a supervisor in terms of using coaching skills. And then at the end of the year, when you have the formal feedback, there's a way of doing that where the person feels they had a hand in designing and being committed to that feedback, which we've just been talking about. So what they did is they brought the person who, this was very cool. After the person went through the program, they brought their direct report into the room and they did the same conversation again, the performance management conversation. We asked their direct report, how was it this time? And like 98% was, we don't even think it was the same person. It was a completely different experience. So, organizations will do very well if they embed some of these skills into the performance management process with their people managers.
Right.
Yeah, really interesting. And I want to thank Juan and Brian because it was a great conversation. I know it went a little off the path of where we were, but I found it, really interesting and informative, and it was what I actually came in for. So I appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Wonderful. Anybody else?
I would be happy to share for our group.
Sure.
So I had a great group with Margaret, Marcia, and Layla. And two people in our group talked about how they're trying to give feedback to someone and help them to grow professionally. It's that they're a really great worker, but that they could use some growth in, their poise and professionalism. And they were both sharing that the people are very sensitive, and so I though we didn't talk about it specifically, I would say, they might have identity triggers, that they feel like when you're giving them feedback that they're taking it personally, right? And so they were talking about how their approach has been to sort of give the feedback in small doses rather than give them a laundry list of things to do that they, have to go through sort of one at a time. And I think that sort of follows on what Juan was saying, that you're giving feedback more often and in smaller doses so that it can be received more comfortably. And we talked about sort of how often people have a lack of resilience, and we talked about possibly, trying to get at that identity trigger and saying, well, like, if there's pushback and saying, oh, I'm not comfortable with this, or this isn't the way I like to do it, or I don't want this change, saying things like, well, how is that important for you? What is that bringing up for you, so that you can get at the root of what the pushback is, and maybe then once they find the root, they can understand how they could approach it in a different way.
Yeah. I was hoping, and it happened in our group too, that this also evolved in a little bit of a mock coaching session where this leads into, well, what are some of the challenges for you to receive that feedback? And then the other person says, let's say if we put the other person, this happened with Sandy and Alice, where I put then Alice as a coach for Sandy and say, what would you ask her? What would be the areas that she would have to most difficult or most challenging for her and how would you address it? So this could vary. The whole idea of how you receive and give feedback is in itself a very big coaching topic. If I was running an organization, I would definitely coach people on their own relationship with feedback.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, you're going to, in today's world where everything is changing at the speed of lightning, and you don't really know what it is going to go on, feedback and keeping current with what's going on with others is absolutely critical. Okay, so let's just go through the last set, which is just role modeling a coaching culture,
Mhm.
encouraging people to discuss blind spots, how the person themselves taking accountability for contributing to the problem. In my case, it was my ego of what a good tennis player I thought I was versus the modern game. Until I get on top of that, I'm never going to get to the next stage. Uh, uh, what are really identifying what the challenges are to hearing it? Well, your stamina is not what it used to be. Get used to it. You're not 20 years old anymore, right? Asking for help. I had to surrender. I had to say, you're right. If I'm going to win that tournament, I got to put aside those things. And then, from the point of view of the feedback giver, what are their own biases? He said to me, at times I could be very direct. I've lost some students. I got to be a little bit softer when I give feedback. What could hurt someone in the short term? Well, if he had overloaded me with 100 things at one time, I would have probably given up. And then the whole idea of the differences in individuals and how you're working between the audience and what you're trying to do. So again, there's no one else in the entire world wired exactly like the person you're working with. This has to be in your mind all the time. They have to educate you on who they are. And this is very difficult. This is one of our biggest challenges in class, is because people come in with a problem solving. I've done this anyway. I've been in HR, one problem after another. Credit is given for people that have quote unquote executive presence. All of those things that actually take you away from a coaching presence. So let's open it up to anyone in terms of any feedback around what you were hoping to get, what you got, or any other questions or comments. We have about 5 minutes.
And also, but I didn't mean to cut you off, Juan. I do apologize. I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a survey. There's a little QR code that you can pull it up so that you can have it and then, take it as people are giving their feedback or take it after we sign off. We can also send the link out to you guys so you can take that. I just wanted to point that out. But back to you, Juan. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes,
No
this
worries.
is very helpful for us, this survey. Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. When you said what you just said about the role of the coach, and just for those of you who are interested in the program, that is one of the main areas that I really appreciated about this almost year and a half that I spent in my journey, which is you are not there with your client or your coachee to give that person the solution. So you are there, you have to be present with that person, be attentive to any signal, be very curious, but at the same time to help that person, as Kaveh used to say, just you're holding the light and then I'm just giving you some clues, but you have to get out of this black box by yourself. And it's only you, and if you want to do it, that we will be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that this is one of the main revelations in this training for me, Cabe, that I just use every single day with my teams, and it is really amazing and so rewarding for both sides, for the client or for the coachee and for the coach.
Wonderful. Well, that's foundational. Holding the space is what you're there for.
Absolutely.
Others?
Found it
If-
really, really helpful, eye-opening,
Um,
and
say
obvious.
say more, Alice. How did it help you?
It helped just a couple minutes talking with you, Kaveh. I was like, yeah, it's not just your professional self that you bring to a coaching environment. It's your whole self. It's your whole experience. It's every, experience you've had and what you think about who you are and how I guess the big thing in coaching and learning to be a good coach is to be able to step aside from that. It's really hard because it's our identity in a lot of ways. And I think you illustrated that really quickly in our little conversation. So I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. It just was very eye-opening. I, wasn't really familiar. I mean, obviously I know of the coaching space. I really didn't know how the process worked and what it could, be beneficial for people and how it might, fit into my life and career. And I really did get a lot out of it. I've learned a lot, so I appreciate that.
I just want to say one last thing, which is our goal is beyond. Christina and I are committed to this. That's why we get along so well. Our goal is not just to make you one of the best coaches in the world. We want you to evolve into a higher consciousness as a person. And because of the community that you build in these sessions, I'll give you a quick example. They come in sometimes with the gender sitting on the other, one on one side of the table, one on the other. By the end, they're calling themselves brothers and sisters. This is the experience and the evolution that we're striving. So most of the comments we get is around how it changed their lives. Not just, I would put our coaches up against anyone. In fact, Brian and others were actually coaches before they came into the program. We have a lot of coaches that came back to take this. But the biggest thing is how you leave as a person. Christina, do you want to add anything or conclude anything?
I just want to ask a question about when the next cohort's starting and how you join something.
Okay.
I can take that
Oh,
one,
Bill?
Kaveh, if you'd like. We are currently seeking out ways. Part of this is to see if we can possibly maybe start something with Seton Hall. We're looking for ways. We're currently revamping the program to deliver it in the best way possible. If you wanted to reach out to AJ O'Connor Associates, or you can reach out to Elizabeth. It was info@ajoconnor.com. And let us know that you're interested. We're working on developing the next cohort. So the more people you can share this with, the more people you can share this video with, the experiences with. And something to keep in mind is it is mind-blowing how much we just learned about feedback today in 90 minutes, right? And the program itself, it does that with every aspect that Kaveh and Christina touch on. So it's hard to even fathom, I think, and that's why so many people come out of this program and feel the way that they feel, because you think you know something, and then Kaveh and Christina take what you think you know and show you what you don't know. And I think that I think that's really mind-blowing, and I think that's the allure of the program. So the more people you can share this with, the sooner we might be able to have that next cohort, Sandy, because we would love to have you be a part of it, for sure.
Excellent. Yep.
I'm gonna have you as one of the instructors, Jill. That was
Yeah.
Must be all the things I've been involved in, Kaveh. I'm kidding.
I would say that so I built for the last 17 years, I've been building this program. So Rutgers, American U, all those are my programs. I left Heidrick. I took 2 years to develop this one based on what I thought were builds, especially the presence piece. So this is a culmination of nearly 20 years of doing this.
Yeah, in this short period of time, I can already recognize several things that I would gain. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. So I do have some people I've been talking about doing this with, and I'm going to get some emails out to them. Shannon actually invited me to come on because I had actually reached out to her. So
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you, Sandy.
yeah, yes, I have, so as I said, I have a lot of people who have been saying, well, you should do this, because I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it right. I'm not being mean to myself. I'm just saying I'm using coaching skills as an HR professional and not a coach.
I tell you what you're doing right already, which is the humility to know the difference.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have the mind that says, there's only 2 people that have not passed this program, and they were both therapists. And they thought that because we don't offer, the certification they go through as therapists, that this is not a real program. So if you have the mindset, the learning mindset Christina talked about, you will do fine. It's just, we need you to be open and to be able to really enjoy the joy of learning,
Yeah, and when I say something like 38 years in pharmaceutical HR, people think, oh, you're like stuck in the mud. I'm like, oh no. No.
Wonderful.
If I was still back 38 years ago, I'd be personnel.
I hate to admit it, but I remember the term, and I remember the world.
Yes. Yes, I'm a very young
Yeah.
early retiree.
Our request of you is talk it up with your folks.
Yes.
We don't have the megaphone of Rutgers and Heidrick and Struggle, where I sold my company to, and all of that. But people that have gone through it, I'll guarantee you that whoever you talk with is going to give you the type of referral that it was transformational for them. So rounds up activity. We think of all of the people that are going through it as our family, and whatever support you can give us, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And I have nothing to add.